page 44-45. One of the challenges with this blog is to find new ways to say holy crap. There are a lot of unnecessary words, but holy crap, you guys, there are a lot of unnecessary words. What's that? You want an example? Why, what perfect timing, as these pages are comprised almost wholly of them. Example 1, when Doc calls, he asks Marty if he was sleeping. Marty says no, and then Doc continues the conversation, saying all.
You sound like you just woke up.
Marty lies and says,
I was thinking.
And that's the explanation? That we all missed in the movie? I guess. Example 2, after this exchange, Doc asks for Marty to pick up the video camera, and instead of Marty being all okay sure see you soon, he instead begins a pointless conversation where he asks if the key is in its usual place, under the potted plant, and then tells Doc he doesn't think that's a good hiding place.
First place a burglar would look.
So Doc is forced to respond that he hasn't been robbed yet, and only after he says he's not worried about being robbed because the place looks so junky does Marty consent to pick up the video camera. Okay. So now finally we jump to Marty arriving at mall, right? No, haha, no. First Marty grabs his skateboard and his new Walkman. When did he get it? Seriously, when? Marty's movements have been fully accounted for since his Walkman was destroyed and he never went to the Walkman store. I dubbed the Paradox Walkman, puts some pillows in his bed to look like somebody's sleeping there, and then he himself wonders why he's bothering doing this since everyone else is asleep and nobody ever checks on him anyway. The character is wondering why he's doing something pointless in a pointless scene that we're wondering why we're reading. There's no limit to how deep this goes, people. It is a singular moment of perfect beauty. Marty sneaks out but walks half a block before skating, because
he had discovered once, to his chagrin, how much noise a skateboard could make on a quiet evening.
And all the skaters in the audience are saying, geez Marty, clean your bearings and you'll be fine. And then Marty gets to Doc's place. And then he finds the key exactly where it's supposed to be. Please stay awake. Eventually someone will be blasted through time itself. I promise. The only interesting thing happens while he's looking for the camera. All of Doc's clocks go off at once, like in the beginning of the movie. But instead of him yelling, I'm late for school, and then skating off like a boss, what happens?
A smile spread across his face, for he never tired of hearing this strange symphony arranged and orchestrated by the world's most fanatical timekeeper, Doc Brown. Must be 1 o'clock, Marty said softly. As indeed it was.
Okay, that's it, I'm stopping now. Good grief, 5 lines of movie dialogue took 5 full pages to get through. If you are a writer and the blog causes you to cut out even 1 page of stupid unnecessary words from your stories, it will all have been worth it. Marty skates to the mall, finds Einstein there alone, and asks him where Doc is. And like in the movie, we get that dramatic DeLorean entrance scene where it rolls out from the back of the truck. Only of course in the book it's weirder, with Doc allowing Marty, suddenly described as Doc's protege. What? What? Marty is not an experimental scientist, Gipe. You just told us he cares only about sound reproduction, hello, to stare at the car for a full minute before Doc finally speaks. And Doc's inside the car the whole time. So imagine a minute of silence while Marty stares at the car and Doc stares at Marty, and nobody dares break the silence of this magical moment. Before Doc opens his mouth though, we get some DeLorean description that tells us,
in place of the rear seat and hatchback door was a huge nuclear reactor.
And
a huge circular projection approximately 18 inches in diameter, which Marty learned later was radar, hung over the passenger's compartment, and that the whole car has an arcane look.
Doc does his
good evening
speech, only now the camera isn't running, so it's a weird smiling formality. Only Marty doesn't care because he's walking around the car taking in
every line and hidden seam. It's a DeLorean, he says, but what did you do to it?
Doc says only that he made some modifications, and gets out of the car,
revealing himself in all his sci-fi splendor. He thought he must resemble Michael Rennie stepping onto Earth for the first time in the day the Earth stood still. "What's with the devosuit?" Marty asked.
And yes, this is the precise point where the scene goes wrong. Marty's cracking wise again. Strike one, and strike two. Seriously? You're going to name drop Michael Rennie? For those of you who had to look him up, that is, everybody, he's the guy who played the character of Klaatu in the movie. Yes, Gipe decided to name drop the actor who played the character, and not their, at least marginally, better known character itself. There's no reason for this at all, it's simply bad, thoughtless writing. Here's the Star Wars version. He reminded himself of David Prowse stepping through a space door in that really cool scene where he first shows up in Star Wars. This is technically accurate, sure, but why oh why wouldn't you say Darth Vader? Fun fact, here is the ratio of people who know of Darth Vader compared to people who know the name of the actor who played his physical body in the original trilogy, 1 zillion trillion 2x, where x equals people who question the canonicity of the holiday special. It is extremely questionable, but we must move on. This is a subtle form of old man-itis writing. Gipe was born in 1933, and I can only assume that many in his generation knew who this The Day the Earth Stood Still actor was, as it would have come out when he was in his 20s. But come on. This is a book written for 80s teens if we're lucky, 80s preteens if we're honest, and I can't imagine a single one of them said, "Oh, of course I know all about Michael Rennie. He died before I was born, and yet I know his filmography intimately." This metaphor has touched me, yeah, to my very core. What the 80s preteens actually said was, "Oh, I think that's a movie with aliens. And I guess the alien was named Michael Rennie?" Bogus. Gipe, question your authorial choices. Anyway, Doc is insulted by Marty's devoquip and actually thinks no respect to himself, which is kind of hilarious, and with that page 46 is over. Startling addendum, I checked, and in the movie Marty actually does begin to quietly say,
Doc, is that a Devo?
But Doc interrupts him almost instantly and talks over most of what Marty has to say with,
Never mind that now, not now.
This means Joker Marty did survive a little into the film and we all just ignored it, with my brain saying the exact same thing that Doc Brown did when it came time to memorize that line. Never mind that now, Ryan's brain, if we pretend that line didn't happen, the movie is way better. My brain to itself,